Hello everyone, today I will be going over food additives and how we can take action against them. So first I want to ask you, what do you think of when you hear food additives? Some of us read the ingredients label and we read cellulose or cholecalciferol, whatever it's called, and or ascorbic acid, and a lot of us are probably reading these wondering like, what the heck is that, and oftentimes we hear these chemicals in our food and our drinks, and it makes us question the safety of them and if they're really essential. But these three examples are vital for nutrition. Like, for example, cellulose is just another name for fiber, and cholecalciferol is just for vitamin D, which we need to absorb calcium in our diets. And then for ascorbic acid, it's just another name for vitamin C. But I will also be going over chemicals that are not so great. And all these examples for where you want to find out what these chemicals are for, you can also find it on the United States Food and Drug Administration's page, just to further educate yourself on them. But starting off, we're going to go over the effects of emulsifiers and stabilizers. First, we're going to go over what they are and how they affect us. So emulsifiers and stabilizers essentially just keep the product or the drink, for example, together, like mixed together so it doesn't separate. For example, there could be water and oil bases, and we all know that oil and water separate, but the point of emulsifiers is to keep them from separating. And for stabilizers, they are absolutely essential for like packaged foods, things that you would find in your grocery store to keep them shelf stable. But results from the National Institutes of Health indicate that numerous, but not all, commonly used emulsifiers can directly alter gut microbiota in a manner respected to promoting intestinal inflammation. So what this means is emulsifiers themselves, looking at a normal gut first, without emulsifiers, your cells within your intestinal lining, they are intact, they're healthy, and this allows the barrier to stay intact as well, preventing pathogens from escaping your intestinal wall. Whereas with a leaky gut disorder that I'm sure a lot of us hear on social media, like Instagram, etc., it is thrown around a lot, and there is some misconceptions about it, but I'm just going to clear a little bit about it up. Not just emulsifiers and stabilizers, there are other ingredients that you can educate yourself on. I'm just not going to be going over it today. But with these two things in mind, what they do is they damage the thin lining in your intestinal wall, and it allows pathogens to seek around and through the cells themselves to actually get into other parts of your body, which is what we call leaky gut. And obviously we do not consider this healthy, right? So when we consider a healthy diet, we usually are talking about foods that prevent this or treat this or definitely don't contribute to it. So just for a little background though, I currently work as a CNA, and part of my duty and my job is giving health drinks to my patients that are prescribed by their physician. Examples are Ensure drinks and Boost drinks. These are to help with their vitamin and mineral intake, but also just get their calories in, because sometimes they won't eat their meals during their time at my facility. But when I was giving these drinks to my patients, I was thinking about the ingredients. I decided to take a look at them and see what is involved with them. And I see three main ingredients among them: soy lecithin, carrageenan, and mono or diglycerides. And essentially these in themselves are emulsifiers and stabilizers. So they pose all the purposes that I mentioned before, to keep it together from separating, but also stabilizing it so it doesn't go bad over a certain amount of time. But this also brings the question, if these drinks are meant to be healthy for my patient's diet, why am I including it? And if they're healthy for their diet, why do they have all these unhealthy emulsifiers? And then also, side note, I do not have a statistic from this because I am the statistic. I see it among all my patients. I unfortunately do have a lot of patients that experience IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, during their stay at my facility. And this is making me think that there is an association, because oftentimes, probably like 70% of my patients are prescribed these drinks every single day with every single meal that they eat. And that's 3 meals a day for every day of their stay at my facility. And these things do add up. I understand that there are purposes for soy lecithin and carrageenan and mono or diglycerides, but I do believe that there are better sources out there. And then this also brings me to our snack options. Let's talk about titanium dioxide. It's basically just a whitening agent. It does not affect the taste or the shelf stability or the health benefits, anything of the sort. The only purpose of titanium dioxide is just for the color. And as you can see on my screen, all of these foods and more include titanium dioxide. And based on all of the evidence available, a concern revolving genotoxicity could not be ruled out, and given many uncertainties, the panel concluded that it can no longer be considered as a safe addition when it's considered a food additive. And this was proven by the European Food Safety Authority. Basically, what this is saying, in short, is they cannot prove it to cause genotoxicity, but they also cannot prove it to be safe from genotoxicity. And by definition, genotoxicity is the cause of damaging DNA. Not our genes specifically, but more like the DNA strands that are in our cells. And when you understand DNA's function, this is absolutely vital for cell reproduction, right? So my bet is, why would we even take the chance of involving titanium dioxide in our diet when we know that there are some potential health hazards to it? And Europe agrees with this strongly. They eradicated titanium dioxide from all of their ingredient labels. And this also begs the question for, why are we in the US still having this ingredient in our diets? And when we take all of these things together, when you have 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and 100 years in a lifetime, this adds up to 36,000 meals. And if you include these ingredients regularly into these meals that you have on a regular basis, yes, it's just a tiny bit in that food ingredient, but you don't realize that you're eating this every single day. It all adds up. And referring back to the Ensure and Boost drinks, I'm giving these to my patients every single day, 3 times a day. Again, it all adds up, and this is probably what's contributing to their IBS I mentioned earlier. And it brings us to a point where we need to bring change, right? Because not just a change to our diets, but also a change to the food system, because this is not what healthcare should be. This is not what our diets should be. I am seeing firsthand what it can do to people, and I think that as a community, we can potentially bring about change. So now I'm going to bring about what you can do about it. And I'm going to be going over boycotts and how they have worked. For example, California has already started taking action against synthetic food dyes. In 2024, Governor Gavin Newsom signed Assembly Bill 2316. And I know some people don't agree with everything that he does, but I fully agree with this bill because it's preventing food dyes from being inside school meals, that are sold at schools. And this, we already know about the public concern about food dyes, specifically petroleum-based food dyes, and he worked on getting that removed. And this also makes us think, like, what else can we do to establish more bills limiting these ingredients, emulsifiers, or other coloring agents, etc. It's all about community action, really. And some examples of what I want you to personally do is, I want you to share with your family and friends about these effects that I've went over in this presentation. And if you have a social media following, or even if you have a small following, I recommend that I push that you spread the word on your social media accounts about these additives and the harm that they do. And also, I want you to read the ingredient label yourself. I want you to further explore what ingredients are out there in the foods that you eat every single day, and think consciously about that. Ask yourself, do you really want this in your diet every single day? And I understand that switching to greener brands can be more expensive. As someone that, I live independently, I do live on a budget, I totally get it. But there are some healthier alternatives out there, and I recommend that you do explore those and find what works for you. And all these small changes do add up to bringing about change to our food system, right? Because we do not want these additives to continue, or if anything, get worse from being in our food system. Our health drinks are meant to make people better, make them healthy, they should improve their gut biome, not negate it, right? And all these strategies help weaken these companies, like these boycotting methods, spreading the word, etc. Because when we spread awareness, we directly decrease the sales of these companies. And when we decrease sales, this forces them to bring about change, hopefully change to healthier foods. And a great example was in a CBS News report on Kraft. They changed their ingredients from synthetic or artificial dyes and preservatives to have natural ones. And people even got together to do a 365,000 signature petition, proving that public pressure, and this proves that public pressure alone can change our food system. It already has. It's just we have to do it more. And that's pretty much it for my speech, and I hope that as a community we can collectively bring about change to this food system that we have, unfortunately, in the United States. And I hope to see you guys potentially spread the word around, do your own research, and I think that as a community we can effectively bring about change. Thank you.